Hi everybody, it's Janet with SugarShine Designs, and today I'm here for Creative Escape Papercrafting, and we're going to make 10 cards using their November kit. So let's get started. I'm starting card 1 by applying Distress Tea ink to the edges of one of the cut-aparts that says Believe. And the next thing I'm going to do is apply these 2 strips of the silver glitter paper that I cut about a ½ inch wide by about 6 inches long. I'm going to apply that to the top and the bottom of this A2 size card. And it's going to have an overhang initially, but I will trim that off so that it's a nice clean look. Now the cut apart, when you trim it out, is not going to be quite wide enough to cover the 4 1/4 inches. So the silver paper on the top and bottom really enhance and give a more wintry feel to that paper, but also fills the need to cover up the card base, which is what I was going for. And you can see how nice that silver glitter goes with this entire wintry theme, and it gives it even more of a kind of an icy, cold winter feeling, which is great. I did have a little bit more overhang, I realized after I got it on, so I cleaned that up. I really like a nice clean edge-to-edge look to my cards, so I'm kind of picky about that. Now here is the snowflake that comes in the memory box die. It's the centerpiece to this. So I cut 2 of them out in the white glitter paper. One is going to go in the center approximately, but slightly off to the left. And then the other one I cut in half and applied 1/2 to the top of the Believe cut apart and the other one to the right top side of the cut apart. And that kind of gives the illusion that snowflakes are falling into our picture or our scene. And if you have, by the way, adhesive that it has backing to it that you can put on your cardstock before you cut your die, that would be an excellent idea. But I wanted to show you that you can definitely do this with glue as well if you don't have anything like that. So there we go with the whole image there. Now I created a bow using the white and silver ribbon in the kit, and then I used some red perler pen to create or enhance Rudolph's red nose, and I really thought that was cute. And so there you go, that is card number 1. Pretty simple and quick. For card number 2, I'm going to start with a white panel, and I'm going to create a sky background using Broken China oxide ink. And I did this trying to purposely get a little bit of white shining through here and there and some darker colors of blue here and there, just how a sky kind of would be. And then I'm using the Oh What Fun phrase in the Oh What Fun Lawn Fawn stamp set up in the corner here, and I put that in red. And now I can build the snow scene below the sky. I cut 3 hills out of the white glitter paper using my Lawn Fawn Hillside Borders die. This is something that's in my stash. You can do this, of course, without any kind of die. You can just randomly cut your paper. The only thing is you wouldn't have that stitching, which does enhance the look, but it's not required. I haven't had these very long, so forever I've been just doing it by hand, and I've been perfectly pleased with them. So don't be intimidated by that, but if you'd like these dies to cut the hills, you can get them from Creative Escape Papercrafting. So check that out if indeed you are interested. So I applied these 3 hills, and then I trimmed them off on each edge. And now it was time to apply my little bear and his sled, which I colored with my Spectrum Noir markers using reds and browns. And I'm going to add some more scene background to my sky. So first I'm putting in a number of black snowflakes, and this is using the largest snowflake in the Lawn Fawn set. There's a smaller one as well. And then I decided to take out my white gel pen, and I just applied dots all over the place to look as if it were snowing. After that, I used my Spica silver glitter pen and just dotted that all over the background, and this gave it some shimmer and shine to go with the snow look. I wanted this to sit up a little bit, so I put on a piece of fun foam on the back using ATG glue. And then I applied that right onto my A2 size card base. And this again opens up at the top just like the last one did. Now to finish this off, I have 3 sequins And that's it. I think this card is also very nice, fairly simple, and really has some punch to it. Very cute. Okay, for card 3, I lost some of my footage here, so I'll tell you what I did is I took a cut apart, cut it down to fit an A2 card. I matted it in the craft cardstock, and then I cut 2 slices of decorative paper to put on each side of this red card base and the cut apart. And then I applied snowflakes using the small and the larger snowflake from the Oh What Fun set, and I used white ink. And you can't really see that too well except on the green tree. And then I stamped in Merry Christmas and embossed that in gold. I also made a bow out of the white and red twine and put that on the tree. Okay, for card 4, I'm starting off by matting a couple tags. Now these are tags that I trimmed out from the cut apart sheet, and I'm applying them both on some cardstock. Now this is just one, I'm not going to show you making both. Once they were glued down, I used my craft knife and my metal ruler to trim them down. So I just had a nice, about a 1/8 inch border on each side. And I just eyeball this for the most part, trying to get it as straight as possible. And then the corners here are just straight line and it's short, so I just decided to trim that out using my scissor. So you see that. And you get a nice matted look this way. I use my littlest punch and put a hole in for the thread. And there you see both the tags together. All right, now I'm going to create the pocket for my card. And this pocket is going to hold the tags. So I start off by taking the border that I'm going to have at the top of my pocket and laying that down. I'm using the lines on my mat here to make sure that I'm laying things down straight. And then I'm just using some Scotch tape to secure it in place for the moment. And I'll flip it over. I can then apply some glue where the joint is. And so when I'm done with that, I'll flip it back. And that way I've got a very secure hold between the glue and the tape that is not going to come off or move. Now I marked off right there where I pointed the depth of this pocket. And so I'm going to apply glue just around the border edges. I also want to mention that the border for the top of the pocket came from a sheet of the cardstock that had all these different scenes on it. So I picked the one with Santa and his sleigh to use for the top of this one. And I'm going to go ahead and apply my pocket and then trim it down. Now this total panel is 5 3/4 inch width. Now here are the interior snowflake sections that cut out when you use the memory box die. And if you remember, I used the white actual interiors on the card before. That's where my 2 snowflakes came from. The center snowflake was cut out using some of that blue foil paper, and it coordinates nicely with this blue background paper that I've used on the panel. And next I'm going to apply this whole panel just straight onto a 6x6 red card base. And what I want to do is center this so I have about a 1/8 edge border around everything. And since I also did the same with my border there, it all looks like it's kind of a continuous piece and it's very cohesive looking. Now I've got my 2 tags, they've come back into the scene, and I put a thread or the twine through one of them and folded another piece in half. What I do is put it through the hole and then slip the ends through the loop that's created and pull. And I don't know what you call that knot. Maybe it's a slip knot. I don't really know. Maybe you past Girl Scouts can tell me what kind of knot that is. But that is the tag knot, and there is my finished card. I think it's so cheery and happy. All right, well here is card number 5. I've cut a panel out of the add-on cardstock that was sent to me by CEP, and this is a snowflake foil on a white cardstock. I'm going to place a border that I'm creating at the bottom of my panel, and this is the red and white cardstock that shows Santa and his sleigh, and then in the center I applied a little bit of the blue snowflake paper just to create a little more interest there. And if you look close, I put this upside down, so I'd recommend you not do that. But honestly, I didn't even notice that until I was watching my video again. Fortunately, that blue snowflake paper breaks up the pattern, and it's kind of a busy small strip, so it doesn't really show unless you really look at it. But once I put that on, I trimmed the edges again just to get a nice edge-to-edge application. The next thing I'm going to do is put this whole panel again on fun foam. I've really been getting into the fun foam because it just lifts it up a little bit, but it isn't so high that it interferes with mailing and that sort of thing. So I really like using it, and it's simple, it's easy, and it's relatively inexpensive. Now again, I'm using one of these cute tags from the kit, and I just wrote on here, "To you from me." And I'm going to then apply some foam tape to the back of this and apply it to the card directly onto the panel. And this is all there is really to this card. It's very, very simple and quick. I did feel it needed just a little bit more to it, so I used 2 different colors of Nouveau drops. It's glitter drops in dazzling blue, and then I also used Nouveau crystal drops in duck egg blue. Now if you didn't have anything like this, you could definitely use any of the included sequins in the Prancer set and just apply those with glue. And there you have it. That finishes off this card. It's another example of a very quick and easy card that you can do in a very hectic November and December. All right, let's look at card number 6. This is getting a little bit more elaborate. I have cut out the border part of the memory box die, and I've cut out this very pretty piece of cardstock. It's one of my favorites in the set. It's so soft and pretty with the trees sitting in a snowy scene. And I've applied glue to the back of the border of the die. It's kind of a circular, almost wreath-like die, but it's so lacy and so detailed. It's just gorgeous. Included then is the cutout circle that I'm going to put around there, and that's in the white glitter paper. And that circle has the stitching in it, so it adds just a little bit more, again, pizzazz or interest to that die. Now I'm going to apply some of the white and silver ribbon, and I put ATG glue on the back of it, and just applying that, and then I'll fold over the edges like so. I'm just going to use again some Scotch tape to secure it on the back. That way it won't move around. I don't have to worry about it coming loose either. Okay. And then I've got a tag. Again, this set comes with quite a number of tags, and they're all quite gorgeous, and this one just seemed to fit perfectly here. It says Merry Christmas, and I'm going to set it, in the middle of this medallion border from the memory box die, and then I'm going to apply that bow right where it would go if there was a grommet there. And then this whole thing is going to be put directly onto an A2 size card base, just using wet glue again. And really the most difficult or complicated part of this card is just cutting out the die, and we all know that's not too hard to do. So this one looks probably a lot more complicated than it actually is, which is always nice, because when you give a homemade card, you want people to know that you've put some time into it and that you care. And so I think that that does that very well. There's a close-up of that one. All right, so here is card number 7. I'm using a number of different papers here, and I have taken this one and distressed the edges with tea dye oxide ink. Here's a piece of that red and white plaid. I did the same with that with the tea dye ink, and then I matted it on some white paper, and that's going to go on first. This piece, once matted, is 1 inch by 4 inches. The bottom of this is going to be covered up, so really it didn't have to be perfectly matted on the bottom, but it's just kind of easier to do it that way. Next, I'm going to apply that Christmas word paper down at the bottom of my card. This piece measures 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, and I did apply some white to the top. I was going to use that border, but in the end I covered it up, so don't worry about that border. You don't have to add any white cardstock to it. But I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and I should mention this is going right onto the green A2 sized card base, and it opens on the left. The next piece I'm going to work on is a piece cut out with a die in my stash. It's an eyelet die, and this measures 3 inches long by 2 inches wide. And once again, I utilized that silver glitter paper. It's just so pretty. I love it. All right, so on one side of this, I'm going to apply a piece of white and red striped paper, and this is a diagonal stripe. This is paper from the kit. It was really kind of just a leftover piece, but it works nicely for my need here. Because the cut apart I'm going to use, it says there's always room for everyone on Santa's nice list. It is just not quite wide enough for my 3-inch piece, so I filled it in by putting that little edge in it. And it's a nice contrast to the red and white plaid piece that it's going to sit on. So overall, I really liked how it turned out. But I just applied wet glue on the back of this cut apart and put it in place. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of create a ribbon ruffle. And so I'm using my ATG gun. I'm going to apply a whole layer of glue to the back of this green ribbon that came in the kit. And that is going to allow me to stick it as I'm moving along, and you'll see how this works. I'm going to kind of create a ruching, I guess is the right, the right pronunciation. And so I'll stick one edge down, then lift it up, create a little bit of a ruche or a ruffle, depending on how you want to look at it. And I just keep doing this over and over. And as I complete it, I'm going to go ahead and push those down, all in the same direction, which is to the right. I wanted to give enough time here to show how I do this in regular speed, and then I'm going to speed it up here so that you don't get bored to tears watching me put this on, but I do want to show you what I'm doing here. I forget this technique. It's kind of an old one, I guess, but I do enjoy it once in a while, and it gives a really different and fun look to your card and creates a nice little border where you need it. When I'm done, I trim off the edges, and there you go. It's almost as if you have kind of a sewn piece onto your card without having to sew anything. So anyway, just a fun little technique that I pulled out of the memory banks that I thought would be fun to use on these more traditional and vintage style cards. All right, so the back of this, I'm going to just apply foam tape, and that is going to go on to my card, and it will slightly overlap the red and white plaid piece that I put on earlier. I hope you like this one. I've tried to use many pieces of the paper as creatively as I could. This one includes actually 4 different pieces of the designer papers, and then a piece of that silver glitter as well. So we're trying to maximize, you know, the pieces in this kit to get a simple but really fun and pretty card. And here's the close-up of that one. Okay, we're on to card 8, and this is going to be a shaker card. I've always got to do a shaker card, guys. It's one of my favorites. So I used as a base a piece of that add-on cardstock with the silver foil snowflakes, but you can use any of the paper that you got in the kit for this. Just cut it 5 3/4 square, and then I used the memory box die to cut out the circle in the center. And of course that's going to be the main window of the shaker card. And next I'm going to start creating the window well here with my foam tape. And I just use the foam tape that you can get at the Dollar Tree. It's really inexpensive, and you can use a lot of it like I've done here and do it pretty guilt-free. So I've got that all prepped and ready to go, and now in the center I'm going to apply some of the Prancer mix that came in this kit, and it is so pretty. I love all the colors in this and all the shapes, the snowflakes, the reindeer, and all the different colored sequins and sizes. There's even a few seed beads in there. So I can apply this now over the top of all my shaker bits. And once I have that centered where I want, I do press really hard around the circle part so that it's nicely sealed. I sure don't want my shaker bits to get out of my well here. Next, I'm going to apply the border circle. This is the border that has the stitching in it, and it's out of the white glitter cardstock. So you know, when I started my cards, I cut a few of these out. One in white glitter cardstock, actually a couple of them, and a couple of them in the blue foil. And then I've just been using these pieces interchangeably here and there. So in this case, the rest of the die is going to be in the white glitter paper. So I have that applied. Now the reason this looks so nice is it kind of finishes off or covers up the raw edge of where you cut the hole out with your die. So it makes it look really finished. The next thing that's going to go in is another border, but this time I'm using a piece from the blue foil that I had cut out earlier. Again, just adding a little bit of blue color and you know, playing on that snow kind of feel. The next thing is to go ahead and apply the wet glue behind this whole medallion piece, which includes the snowflake in the center that's cut out, as well as that pretty border. What's really cool about this memory box die is there's actually 5 different pieces that get cut out, so you could use up to 5 different pieces of paper and then put it all together, and you could get some really different looks from that. But here's an example of just using 2 different kinds of cardstocks, and what a great look that created. Here's another one of those tags that came in the kit. It says Merry Christmas. And I'm going to apply this at the bottom. And then I'm going to show you a close-up of my bear in his sleigh. And I'm going to use this snow marker. This is the first time I'm going to use it. It is a Marvy Ushida marker, and what you do is, according to the package, is you apply it to the area that you want to create snow. And it's one of those nib markers that are kind of like Zig two-way glue. So it just kind of seeps out onto that nib and you apply it from there. But these are very small areas within this die cut, so you can see that I had pretty good control over it, and I was pretty pleased with how well it went on. Now what the package says to do is go ahead and let that dry, which I did, and then you use your heat gun on it. But it did say to be very careful not to overheat, so you can see that I'm kind of tentatively heating up and then pulling it away. And you'll notice that it does puff up, and it looks, in this case, I was trying to create kind of a fur look to it, and I was pretty pleased with that. And you can see it's a little bit dimensional. Later I put a little bit of Wink of Stella on that fur to make it look like it had some shine, and it was really fun. I would highly recommend you checking out that pen. Alright, to finish this card, I applied several of the sequins and the stars that are in the Prancer mix, and there is my finished card. I was really happy with this one as well. Lots of fun. It's always great to have some movement with the shaker card. Okay, we're on to card number 9. On this card I'm going to use several different colors of paper or different patterns of paper, again to try to maximize the punch I can get out of all these different patterns that all coordinate together. After I stuck this down at the bottom, I realized I needed some room to place the next piece, which I cut out a diagonal, and I'm just tucking that into or underneath that bottom piece. Really, I should have put that diagonal piece in first and then the bottom, but you know, sometimes when you're creating, you don't always do the right steps first. Now this other diagonal piece that I'm putting in is the same width or height of the card, but I just cut it at an angle, so it's kind of like the shape of an envelope flap. In the corner I've punched a hole and I'm going to install a white eyelet And I hope eyelets come back, actually. These are fun to work with. They add a finishing touch to your work. And it fits very nicely with the theme of these cards because of the vintage paper. I think the eyelets also kind of complement that style here. And now I'm going to use that eyelet and thread some of the white and silver ribbon through it. And I'm going to eventually attach that piece of cardstock down along with the ribbon so that it is threaded all the way across the card as if it is almost shutting that card. I mean, that's the kind of the image that I'm trying to go for anyway. So I trimmed off the edge of that ribbon and I'm going to secure it with a piece of Scotch tape again. And this is just the edge that goes on the right side of the card. Next will come glue on that cardstock, and then I'm going to go ahead and place it down, and it will cover up that last remaining white section on my card base. And I apply this so that I can then stretch my ribbon across, and then I'm going to fold it over the edge and glue that down. And I'm going to use my glitter glue here. The one really nice thing about glitter glue, and there's many nice things about it, but one is that it dries completely clear. And so it's nice to use in a situation like this, because if any of the glue seeps out, it's just going to be white and you're not going to, or clear, and it won't be seen. And now I'm going to put the ribbon, or the bow, I'm sorry, right on top there to look as if it's tied. And then I found this cute little cut apart that I matted on white, and I'm going to put that, or tuck it behind the ribbon and the bow. And it's going to be the real focal point of this card. And honestly, that is really all that's to it. Again, we're trying to use this pretty paper and all the designs together to create the interest and let it do the work for you so that you don't have so much to do. Again, I was shooting for something quick and easy for you guys. Alrighty, we're on card number 10. And I've picked this cardstock. I just love it. I love these old-fashioned looking ornaments. It's so adorable. It totally reminds me of my grandparents' home at Christmas because they had some of these ornaments that looked a lot like this, probably more from the 40s and 50s, and they're just so beautiful, and it just gives me warm fuzzies looking at it because it does bring back so many memories. Maybe you have some similar memories. So what I'm going to use here is one of those, or actually two of the circles again that were cut out of the cardstock using the memory box die. So it's the two circles together. This time I'm going to use the blue foil circle on the outside and then the white glitter paper in the center. And then I'm using some of that pretty blue organza ribbon, and I'm going to create this little loop, and I'm going to hold it together with one of the larger glue dots. I don't know what that is, maybe a 1/4 inch size glue dot, I believe. And so that will hold it together. And once that is secure, then I'm going to put another glue dot behind that, and I'll put it in my circle. So the rest of the card is very, very simple as well. I'm going to use one of the snowflakes that I had cut out using that blue foil paper, which by the way is so pretty. And I've used glue to attach that in the middle, or where the the ribbon crosses. And then in the center of that, I'm going to use one of the gold deer that comes in the Prancer shaker set. I put a little bit, tiny little square of double-sided foam tape and put that on top so it has a little bit of dimension. And then to finish it off, I took 4 of the largest gold sequins. These are hefty sized. I'd say they're actually quite close to 1/2 inch a piece, and put them in the corners, and voila, that is card number 10. Well, that wraps it up for my 10 cards this month using the November fully loaded kit from Creative Escape Papercrafting. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. If you didn't see it already, please visit the unboxing video for this kit, and that way you can see everything that's included. Well, I'll be back soon, but until then, keep crafting. Bye.